Alrighty, hello and welcome folks to how to distribute customer identity to non-engineering teams. Today's exciting webinar is brought to you by Fronteg and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Mackenzie Puddesy with Actual Tech Media, and I'm excited to be your moderator for this conversation today. Today's engineering teams shoulder the burden of feature requests and platform maintenance tasks surrounding customer identity and access management, or a CIAM, which often feel like low-value distractions from core product development. Meanwhile, non-developer stakeholders like customer success and infosec teams rely on engineering to fulfill their mission-critical needs, leading to delays, status updates, and frustration on both sides. Well, there is a better way, and that is what we are here to discuss today. A low-code, intuitive identity management platform that removes the dependency on engineering in a controlled way. Likely, that is why you're here. You are looking for a better way to approach CIAM. And luckily, we have got Fronteg CEO Sagi Roden joining us to face this challenge head on. This is going to be such a cool conversation, and I cannot wait to get started. So why don't we zip through a little bit of housekeeping, and we will get things on our way. Alrighty, first I want to draw your attention to the question section of your webinar console. This is the best place to get involved, get interactive, post all your insightful questions, comments, feedback, and ideas. We do indeed want to hear from you. So why don't you find that questions tab now, and let's start out by saying a quick hi, hello, hola, bonjour, aloha, or any greeting that you'd like to give to the other audience participants here today. Give a wave to the community out there. As a quick side note, that window is also the best place to reach out and let us know if you have any technical issues during today's session. Knock on wood, of course, that doesn't happen to you, but a quick browser refresh is usually enough to shake some fear into the tech gremlins crawling around here. But if not, just shoot a message in that questions tab, and the Actual Tech Media crew and I will be here to help. And the last thing I want to point out on your audience console is the handouts tab. Go check out some cool resources and follow-ups to our conversation today, because it is just packed with great info. So if you haven't already popped over there, you're going to want to get those awesome handouts as well. Now, finally, a cool bit of content. All that cool content is incredible. So we've got a little bit more of a giveaway than just that awesome information, and that is a $250 Amazon gift card as a prize drawing at the end of our webinar. And of course, you do need to be in attendance during the live event to qualify for the prize. All winners must also meet the Actual Tech Media Prize terms and conditions, which you can find in the handouts tab as well. So check that all out. Additionally, there is a $50 Best Question gift card up for grabs. So if you're inquisitive, well, today it may just pay to be curious, which I love. I'm going to be posing some of the questions from you to Sagi, our speaker today. And so this is a great opportunity to be able to speak directly to the great minds that we have here on the webinar. So take advantage of that. And again, keep those coming in throughout the presentation. All right, well, that is everything for the housekeeping. So let's get things started. I'm so excited to introduce you all to Sagi Roden. He is the CEO of Fronteg, so an honor to have him on today. First, I am going to be posing some questions to Sagi in a fireside chat style. Then Sagi's going to be going over a demo of some various profiles in Fronteg. And finally, we will dig into the questions from you out in the audience. So this is a reminder that there is that $50 Best Question gift card up for grabs, and that we will be answering as many questions as possible in the time that is allotted. And with that, Sagi, I'm going to bring you over to the stage and ask you to introduce yourself a little bit further. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much, Mackenzie. Great to be here and great to talk to everybody. So I guess we can start. We're Fronteg, building the next generation of customer identity, and a bit maybe about our history shortly. So I'm Sagi, and together with Aviad, the guy that stands here next to me, we founded Fronteg in 2019. Both of us coming from the security and cloud backgrounds. engineers in our hearts and souls. And we started Frontend because we saw how customer identity was becoming increasingly complex for SaaS companies. So since then, that was 2019, we've grown quite a bit and got backed by great investors like Insight, Stripes, and others. Some amazing companies joined us. So we work with companies like Siemens, Datadog, CrowdStrike, NVIDIA, Palo Alto, just to name a few. And really proud of the people that work at the company. So we're spread between the Israeli office and the office in the Bay Area in Mountain View. And I'm taking the call from Mountain View today. So that's a bit about us. Maybe a bit one slide that we're very proud of. We're constantly being high rated by real engineers as the leading solution for customer identity. This is from G2, and it's really great to see those folks really kind of clapping and rooting for us. And maybe just the last slide before we kind of dig in, and I give you the mic to ask me some questions. I think this mission statement really captures what we're all about. We believe every software product can become better when identity is just not a bottleneck. So it's not just about making identity simple for developers, which obviously we're doing, but it's about making it work kind of seamless for everyone who touches it, from the engineering teams building the product to security teams protecting it, to the end users who actually experiencing it live. So that's a bit about us, and that's it. That's from me.
Alrighty. Well, let's dive into this. I'm excited. The first thing I wanted to mention, kind of as a level set, is that it's become the accepted norm for engineers to be fully responsible for implementing and managing customer identity. How did this become this way? How did this come to be?
Yeah, it's quite interesting how we got here. So, back when SaaS was just taking off, customer identity, user management was seen as just another kind of technical feature. So you can think about it just like as a database management or API integrations. And it made sense at the time to hand it over to engineering because, well, who else is going to handle it, right? But here's what happened. As companies grew, things got more complex. And suddenly you need to handle things like multi-tenancy and enterprise SSO and security policies and multi-factor authentication and handle user invites within the product and compliance regulations and stuff like that. But it still stayed with engineering simply because that's just how it always have been, right? So, what's I think is fascinating is that for the longest time, there was just no other alternative, right? So that just remained the way it was. And we didn't have tools like that would let non-technical teams safely handle identity tasks without risking the security aspect, without breaking things. So engineers became this sort of identity gatekeepers by default. And it's kind of like became the necessary evil situation where everybody knows that identity is critical, but it's often seen as a technical burden rather than a strategic asset, because that's basically just not the core of what almost any company is doing, and that's really what we need to change.
Okay, I like that. So then, we've gotten here, but then from your perspective, as we kind of look at the challenge or the negatives of this, what are some of the biggest hidden costs, time, resources, or otherwise that engineering teams face because they're the sole owners of customer identity management?
Yeah, a lot of hidden costs. So, this is something I'm really passionate about because I see it happening all the time. And also, as a developer in my previous life, I lived through this pain kind of firsthand. The biggest hidden cost for me is innovation because
Mm.
every hour your engineers spending managing things like CIAM is an hour they're not spending on building features that actually make your product unique. And what really kills productivity are these kind of constant ad hoc interruptions that engineers get. and they're deep in coding new features, and suddenly they need to drop everything to help reset multi-factor authentication for a customer, adjust the security policy, manage user invitation flow. These small interruptions add up very fast. And there's the security pressure, right? Like with standards like GDPR and SOC 2 and HIPAA, engineers are constantly having to update and audit their software and manage authentication methods and implement new security features. So it's not just about building features anymore. It's about maintaining this ever-growing complexity. But what often gets kind of unnoticed is also the operational drain. And think about all the time spent managing SSO integrations, configuring these MFA factors, setting up tenant isolation, handling user provisional flows, name it. And these aren't just one-time tests. They're ongoing maintenance that actually slowly eats away all of your engineering focus on the core. If I need to think kind of where it hits me, I think it hits me home sometimes, because I remember this one time when I was a developer, like deep into developing this exciting new AI feature that I was very passionate about, right? And then boom, we hit this with this authentication bug. Not even something I built, just some legacy SSO integration acting up. And I spent like 3 days debugging it while, because customers can't log in, right? Like it's a mission critical bug. So everything else had to stop. And all I could think about was getting back to that AI feature. But instead I was kind of, neck deep in identity logs, trying to find out what happened. And, every developer knows how that feels, right? And when you have to kind of put your real innovation on hold to deal with something that shouldn't even be your problem in the first place. And that's exactly why we're trying to change this whole approach to CIAM.
I love that. And I love that kind of immediate response of innovation is at stake, because I think a lot of companies are like, well, we want to save time, we want to be efficient, but those are all kind of these never-ending desires. But if you ever asked a company lead, do you want to be less innovative? They'll be like, well, no. So I think you really hit on something
Exactly.
powerful with that.
Yes.
So speaking of this kind of like, potential loss of resources, do you think there's a communication gap between stakeholders like information security and engineering, or is the tension around customer identity more often a structural and systematic issue in organizations?
Those are all kind of good candidates, I think, kind of to understand the problem more deeply. But, what's interesting, like, I think that while communication between teams isn't perfect, and probably as the organization grows, it becomes even, less perfect, the real challenge, I think, is more fundamental. It's about structure. So most organizations haven't figured out who should own identity management beyond the engineering team. And I see that all the time. Like security teams want more strict MFA policies. They want, very detailed audit logs. While engineering is under pressure to ship features fast and make login experience smooth. And it's not that they're not talking, they're just, operating with different priorities. And what we often see is this bottleneck effect where non-technical teams constantly waiting on engineering for identity related needs. So whether, setting up rules, managing users, permissions, roles, stuff like that. And not because engineers are slow, but because the system isn't set up for efficient collaboration. And the real issue is that most companies just lack the right tools to bridge these gaps between the technical and non-technical teams. And when every security policy update or authentication flow, needs engineering involvement, you're kind of bound to have friction. It's built for friction. So it's not about better meetings. It's about rethinking how we approach identity management at the process level.
Yeah. That's really interesting. And um, so I think as we think about that and that it's not though it can't be done. It's kind of how it's assigned and how it's communicated. That this customer identity management, it's not a tech issue really, right? But it does impact aspects of product security, even customer support. So how would you suggest organizations maybe foster this kind of better collaboration between the technical teams and the non-technical stakeholders?
Yeah, so let me share what I've seen that works really well. So
Mm,
first, you need the right tools, right? So platform that let, non-technical teams handle basic CIAM tasks themselves. Like configurations, like managing the invites, setting up the policy, setting up the custom settings for each account, or even sometimes on a user level, right? Sometimes a certain user needs different configurations, right? So you need to enable the back office teams, the operational teams, to do that. And that needs to be very easy and seamless for them to do that. Otherwise, they will just give up. It's
mm.
also crucial to be really clear about ownership, about who owns what. So when everybody knows their role in the sign process, like who can adjust security policies, who can handle the user provisioning, who manages the tenant configuration, you kind of, when that's clear, you avoid those frustrating back and forth for unnecessary handoffs and misalignments. And sometimes that's often kind of overlooked, but you also need training, and you'll be amazed at how much smooth things get when non-technical teams understand what are the fundamentals of identity management, when it's concerned to them, and they make better decisions. It's everything is very clear for them. There's a bunch of amazing AI tools. For example, we like 3 months ago uh, finished integration of an AI tool into Fronteg, where you can just post a question, how do I do that or that, and you get an answer. You don't need to look, kind of find your way across these cumbersome screens and portals. And that's what's really powerful, is getting engineering, product, security, success teams together regularly. So it doesn't have to be long meeting, just quick things to stay aligned on security requirements, on the authentication flows, on user management needs. And, just one pro tip, involve non-technical folks early in the process. It's much easier to address these needs upfront than, after the launch.
Very nice, very nice. And yeah, as you're describing that, I can totally think of, say, like, a new recruit needing to be onboarded, and there's HR, and they just need this done because this person is with them, but they have no real concept of what's going on behind the scenes, and it's frustrating, but it's almost comical where you could just see the disconnect and how it could play out, and often does play out. So I love this idea of
Yeah,
encouraging them to get involved early.
exactly. And think about it, they pass the same DNA they had at previous companies. So they just don't know that this might become part of their day-to-day job. So you kind of have to, make sure that they understand. And the early they understand it, the better it will be.
That's awesome. So then, as we kind of talk about that and empowering the non-technical stakeholders, how would you go about that? So like, how do you pass on the torch of ownership without maybe losing control? Or where is the quantity of this is the right amount, and how do you go about that?
Yeah. So you're kind of asking what engineers can do to empower others and kind of, release this constant constraint, right? So,
Exactly.
I always say it's one small change. And this change is not easy to make, but, it's one single change of approach. And maybe, speaking to the architects, to the engineers, to the VP of engineerings, that are out there today, maybe that's one thing I would like you to remember from all of that is, don't solve for the feature, solve for the independence. And that means, don't solve for this one Jira task that you have at hand, but, for avoiding the 10 that will come after. And if you think about empowerment of others in the future, for the thing that you build or the bug that you solve, you give a 10x value to the company rather than just solving the problem at hand. And how do you do that? The key is using, first of all, using low-code platforms that make identity management accessible without requirement of deep technical skills. And think of it like giving people guardrails, right? Like they can't break anything important, but they still can get their work done. And we've seen great success happening with automation. When you automate repetitive tasks like access provisioning, you create templates of things, so templates of roles and permissions, and you can just duplicate and copy them between different types of customers. So you're not only freeing engineer times, but also reducing the chance of an error happening, right? Another secret sauce maybe is really good documentation. When non-technical users have clear instructions, they become much more independent. So they don't need to kind of rely on engineering for every little thing. And I think that, it's about finding that sweet spot when engineering maintains control of the critical stuff while empowering other teams to handle the day-to-day tasks safely and efficiently. So that would be my kind of 2 cents for this. Don't solve for solving the feature, solve for the independence of using this capability in the future.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I think we need to take that out and make it as a quote that you can use for something. Your LinkedIn. Awesome. So
Thank
with
you.
that, do you actually want to show us under the hood and kind of give us a demo of what's going on with these different profiles in Fronteg?
Yeah, I would love to show how we kind of stand behind that in practice and build a product that adapts to this evolution that is happening, right? Because if you look at products like even 5 years ago, those products were aimed only at, the basic kind of capabilities and the configurations behind them. When today you can think about customer identity as kind of the backbone of a SaaS product, right? Everything starts from there. The users, the accounts, the support, and the feature management, everything. So it becomes kind of the nervous system of a modern product. So I would love to show you how the different folks in the organization use Fronteg on the day-to-day.
Okay, take it away.
Okay, so we will see several kind of live examples. Let's start. So first of all, we can see here an architect, for example, configuring user pools. So user pools is basically connecting your existing identity provider. So you don't always have to migrate users and stuff like that, right? So it should be very easy to connect a new application. Now think about it. Some organizations have one app, while others can have hundreds of applications that they need to connect. And the configuration of those applications should be very, very easy. So we made it at Fronteg kind of very intuitive to take the whole environment, the whole ecosystem you have in your organization, and basically just connect it to Fronteg, so you can enjoy the value of everything that our platform has to offer, while not having to have this, bottleneck of, migrating everything to Fronteg. So this is the example that we've seen here. And then it becomes also about configuration of API access controls, right? So let's say that an architect wants to control who can actually access a certain API. Now, I'm talking about APIs because APIs are still on the engineering side of control, right? They're still kind of considered as an engineering thing and not a product thing sometimes. So no problem. If an architect wants to take a certain API and make sure that, for example, here we see We only want certain folks to access these funds API that we have in the organization. They can do it easily through our API access control. So this would be the second example. The third and last kind of final example on the architect side is what about, engineering teams, architects? They're kind of in the middle. They're not, developing code day to day, but they're still pretty technical folks. They were engineers probably like 10 years ago. And we made it very simple for them to achieve day-to-day tasks. Like, for example, here, making sure that some users have no access to a certain API or to a certain feature. So they can use these short code snippets on their own and basically just make sure that they achieve their access control capability very, very easily. So that captures, the architect persona, right? Basically, think about it as, enabling the architects with these simple tools that they can achieve the task day to day without opening a task to the developer, which is very convenient for architects, and we see in our systems that architects use that all the time. The second persona that I will cover is infosec, or the security teams, right? So what is important for security? Security is getting more concerned over time with what is happening within their customer-facing applications. So, 5 years ago, we spoke to a security persona. They would only mention workforce, what is happening with the employees, what type of SaaS applications they can access, what type of cloud assets they can access. But now they're getting very worried about what is happening with their customer-facing applications, and they need information about that. And we want to make sure that they get it in a very easy way. So, first example I will show is just reviewing security events and managing basic policies. So you can see here that we enter the security event screen of Frontech. You get full kind of visibility over what is happening within your application or within the ecosystem of applications. You can get to the different security rules. We have 9 proprietary engines that control the different aspects of security risks for the customer-facing apps. So, for example, here brute force protection was enforced, right? And that took us like just a second. So the infosec teams are really enabled, empowered by controlling the security aspects of the applications without having to involve the developers in that. And that's really, really convenient for them. The second example I will show here for the security team is changing multi-factor authentication session management. So, I remember working in an enterprise, and regularly these policies would change because of different requirements by different compliance mechanisms that we enforce. And, just changing how much, what's the length of the session, right? And what is the concurrent amount of devices that can connect to a certain user, or forcing, multi-factor, different types of multi-factor. So that's, those are like really important things, but think about how, difficult it could get to enable those things or control granularly of which tenant can get, this setting, or which customer. A huge new bank that we just signed needs very strict policies. And here the infosec team can basically do that on their own. They don't need to open tickets. They don't need to involve engineering. They have the whole control at the back office. So that's really great. And, I think the third thing that I will show here is, connecting to the ecosystem, right? So we always know that infosec, the most important thing for them is to connect everything to their existing tools, because let's face it, they have so many tools open on their dashboards, right? And they want to kind of achieve everything from a single place without going to too many places. So, for example, here they can just connect their Splunk, ship all the customer identity logs to Splunk with a very simple configuration, and do that on their own, and basically, continue the whole filtering, the dashboard, setting up the alerts on their favorite system, in this case Splunk, but we support a lot of others kind of out of the box. So this is about CISO, and I think the last persona that we will cover is the product persona, right? So we constantly talk about this tension between engineering and product, right? So product kind of sits on this, border or crossroad between the business and the operational side of developing the features. So they constantly speak to customers, they hear requests, they speak to sales and get requests to develop things or configure other things. And there's constant tension here where product wants more, engineering is trying to get them what they want, but also trying to maintain decent quality. So we're really trying to solve that tension between product and engineering. I will show a few examples that we try to make it very easy for the product people to do their day-to-day job without relying on engineering solely. So, for example, here we can see configuration of a login through Builder. So you can see here kind of a WYSIWYG experience of setting up your login screen. You can see here that logins and sign-up screens today are a way to control business, right? So conversion, for example, through your sign-up page, it is a thing that is being measured, not only in product-led growth approach, but also, enterprises allow signups today to short trials, and it's really important to get the best out of your sign-up page. So you can kind of see here how easy it is to control everything on the sign-up page, right? So you can set up the colors, you can set up the brand, you can set up the pictures, you can do everything. You don't need to change a single line of code. And I would kind of urge everybody to sign up after this discussion to our platform and play with it. This is really cool and sometimes like overwhelming. Like, oh wow, like so many things, and it's so easy to achieve it at Fronteg. So we're really proud of this builder that we built along the years. So this is the first example. The second is also involves product, and it talks about configuring feature flags. Right? If you think about it, feature flags are just another way to manage the access control for certain features. So why you have to use 3 different systems to configure flags, right? So here, we identified a new feature within our app. We defined it. We create a rule for who can actually access this feature, right? So for example, here, only emails in the list, in the provided list, will be able to access this feature. We can play with the targeting for the access, and after reviewing, basically, we can just add it. And if we need to somehow enforce it or help our developers enforce it, we can just share with them this short snippet of code and tell them, okay, you can just put that in the code. It wouldn't take you more than a few minutes. But most of the times, those flags are all already configured within the system, so they can just be configured for additional access. Very convenient for the day-to-day operation. And the final thing I will show you on the product side is the number one problem in SaaS, which is pricing. Right, we're constantly trying to identify what is the optimal pricing setup for our product, right? So we're moving features from the free plan to the paid plan, and we're creating features that are becoming usage-based and not a Boolean yes or no within a certain plan, right? So you can use 10 of those, you can use 20 of those here. On the enterprise tier, it's unlimited or whatever. And think about the complexity of setting up those kind of very important aspects of business, right? That happen almost in a monthly basis. There are changes. And on a monthly basis, when a small thing changes, you need to speak to engineering. So here we're showing how easy it is to set up an additional plan or to move a feature from one plan to another. Another example of how we kind of enable the day-to-day operation of SaaS to non-technical personas. So that's those are kind of the examples that I'm showing here. We have many others in our platform. I didn't show customer success, for example, and how they're using Fronteg, right? Or business people and how they enable SSO or go to market features just like that. So that exists as well. And obviously, feel free to contact me afterwards, and we can arrange a demo.
Alrighty. Awesome. Thank you for that, Sagi. You really are a great presenter. I love seeing Fronteg in action as well. And truly, as much as I love tech, when I see a coding screen, my brain kind of slows down. Whereas this, it's just so slick, it's easy. This is really great. We're gonna have to dive in further at some point.
For sure.
Okay, well, we've got a few questions in the queue, so I know we don't have a ton of time left, but what do you say we dive in and address a couple of those? What to start with
Yes.
here? Okay, since AI is a hot topic, how do you see trends like AI and automation impacting the role of identity and access management in the next few years? And what should engineering leaders start thinking about today to stay ahead of these changes?
Yeah, so I think we can tackle this question from different angles, right? So AI, at the end of the day, like if you look 10 years forward, probably applications will not be point and click, and you will just use prompts to operate most of the kind of functions that you have enabled through UI, basic UI as we know it in SaaS. And I think that we need to adapt to it. What we're doing at Fronteg is basically taking the AI aspects and allowing to achieve certain tasks within the day-to-day operation without working hard. So for example, in our new flows feature, I won't be showing that today because we don't have time. You can, if you need to create these cumbersome kind of flow diagrams of what a user experiences, and if they are doing that, then do that. It becomes like really hard to achieve those things with drag and drop and configurations. So we made it really easy. We added a prompt, and basically through this prompt, you can do anything through natural language, right? So we're trying to constantly adapt to that. I think that another thing that, another angle that we can address to that is authorization within this kind of agent world that we're all kind of hopping into. And authorization is not going to be this kind of structural parameter based key value authorization, but going to be authorization that is more natural language authorization, and we're adapting to that as well. So I think that we have a lot of awesome innovations that are happening and will be happening soon. For the engineering managers, I think that this also has to do with embracing these tools that will just make it easier with time through AI to achieve these day-to-day operations. And when we can automate things or create things like on the fly and generate things automatically, that would be amazing and will help us achieve the day-to-day tasks in even easier way.
That's great. I love it. The easy button is what I'm always looking for. So it looks like you've got it. Okay, next question I've got here is, what are some practical ways you've seen companies bridge the gap between engineers and non-engineers?
Yeah, so just as I mentioned here, define the right processes, do the right training, and use the right tools at the end of the day, right? And I think that 60% of the problem is solved when using the right tools, right? It can just help the day to day in a very easy kind of shift. And sometimes we're thinking about embracing new tools as something that, it's hard. We need to migrate users. We need to adapt to this new system, adapt to this new language, adapt to this new UI. But at the end of the day, sometimes when the tools are good, then the onboarding part is not that hard as we sometimes think. And you can in a month, and we've seen that happening through Frontech, huge organization that came and said at the first call, we have, a very unique problem. No way you can solve it for us. And then, 3 weeks later, through a POC, they understand that it's not only that they solve their problem that they thought they have, but we solve so many other pains for them through embracing just how the way that we think about things. So I would argue that should be the right approach.
I love that. And I think it is such a mindset thing. And you kind of alluded to this in a few ways throughout the webinar, but it's not like fixing just for a specific problem, a specific tool. Once you take an approach that really does get so many things out of the way, all these tedious things, you're just surprised by the overall outcome sometimes, hopefully always. Okay, we are going to have to wrap up shortly here. So I want to mention for those of you in the handouts tab, there is a case study. So, if you are looking for kind of a practical way this has been rolled out, that's one of the handouts. And I will cover all the handouts in a minute. But, as we wrap up here, Sigi, if someone's just excited to try this out, find out a little bit more information, what would you say are kind of first steps, next steps for anyone out there in the audience?
Yeah. So, we're customer first. So first of all, I would love people to shoot me a note personally, before we go to the official channels. That would be great, not only to kind of sell you the product, which I will try probably, but just to talk to you and hear about your way of thinking about things and your challenges. And it's always great to learn. So that's on the personal note. On the more kind of official channels, you can sign up to Fronteg. It's we have a freemium tier. We have a free trial for the whole platform, so you can play with it. No strings attached. You can talk to our team. We constantly get the best support badge in the industry because we're really centric about the customer. About the customer and their challenges. We're proud of that. So I'm owning this. I'm saying that while being very proud. So you can contact our team. You can get into our Slack channel. There's a community there. You can ask any question. We would love to help. Not only about identity, but about how to kind of create this right ecosystem within your SaaS environment, within your modern product environment. And we would love to share from what we've learned.
That's great. And I love the focus on the human element, with automating everything in tech, it is great to hold on to that and just know that, hey, I actually need some help, or I'm developing this. I want to dive in. And so having those resources and those kind of quick contacts, I think, are so valuable at the same time. All right. Before I let you go, any final nuggets of wisdom, anything you think people should be thinking about as we kind of end 2024 and move into 2025?
We examined a lot of the customers that we had. We had about 20 startups that started to build with us and made a huge success through, this amazing exits and stuff like that. And what we've learned is that when you handle your product properly and your customers love you, is that's where they, will recommend you to their peers. And so I would just say, invest in your product, invest in the user experience, and find the right methods how to achieve that without throwing everything on the engineer and making everything the problem of the engineer. They have a lot on their minds. They're doing amazing work. Let's make it easier for them, but also not sacrifice the business and not sacrifice the user experience while doing that. So I think that I hope that I helped with that during the conversation today.
Awesome. And I think you give a unique perspective, right? You're a CEO, founder, but you've also worked in these different roles. So you do have this kind of larger holistic view of yeah, how should we go about this? So I think hearing from you has been super great. I know I said we were wrapping up, but I saw one just itty bitty question sneak in. So if you can address it before we wrap. This is from Michael. He's asking, is an agent install needed for this, for Fronteg?
No agent install is needed. We're pure SaaS. If you do have, a use case where you need one of your customers to hold their users on their environment, we totally support that. So you can install us as a Docker and stuff like that. But definitely no agent is needed to support everything that I showed here.
Awesome. Well, great. I guess we are at time, so I'm going to let you go officially. One final thank you for being here. It's been such a pleasure, and I can't wait to have you back at some point in the future.
Thank you, Mackenzie. It was great.
My absolute pleasure. Take good care. Alrighty, everybody. I think that is my sincere thanks to everyone for coming out today. Sincere thanks to Sagi for letting us pick his brain and really giving some fantastic information here and showing what Fronteg has been up to. I do want to remind you all to visit that handout section before we close out. Once again, a couple great things in there. We've got a white paper, the Fronteg security approach, software design, architecture, and philosophy. So that is the first thing in there. Second, there's a case study for Hint Health titled Hint Health Saves Engineering Resources and Improves User Security, Leveraging Fronteg's identity platform. If you did want to check out a demo, there's a link to do that, easy peasy, and you can book in a time slot that works for you, as well as a link to sign up for free. And so all of those there are in the handouts tab. You definitely don't want to sleep on those because we're going to wrap in just a sec. And final call out to those QR codes there as well, because I am going to be taking this slide down and moving to our last couple things here. So scan away, and then we're going to go from there. Now, tons of great information. I know it's a sweet giveaway, but we have that one final giveaway here, our $250 Amazon gift card. And one final reminder that you do need to be live and present here on the webinar to win. And with that, I'm not going to make you wait any longer. The winner of this gift card is Matthew Belland from Minnesota. Huge congratulations, Matthew. And as always, we'll be in touch about claiming your prize after the webinar. And again, for those of you who asked those awesome questions, we've got that $50 best question gift card up for grabs. So you might also win that. And we'll be reaching out again after the webinar to let you know how you can claim that prize. And on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I just want to give my thanks to Fronteg for making this webinar possible. I want to thank once again Sagi for being here and for giving us so much to think about today. And of course, I want to give special thank yous, high fives out to everyone out there in the audience, because without you, this would not be possible. And I know sometimes it's difficult to stop all these daily tasks. And, if we're busy and we're being pulled in all these different directions, we don't always have time to think ahead, strategize, and really solve the problem in a holistic sense from implementation, from strategy, using the right tools. And so thank you for pulling your heads up today and taking time to think about how you can distribute customer identity to non-engineering teams and make some really powerful change in your organizations. And with that, I cannot wait to see you all on another webinar again soon. But until then, I'm wishing you an absolutely magical rest of your days. Take care, everybody.